Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Forever Mighty Post-Game Show. We're talking about a Ducks win, 4-2 over the New Jersey Devils, or as we like to call it, Anaheim Ducks East, as the Ducks were playing against 5 former Anaheim Ducks players. But the Ducks come out, man, they dominate this game. I felt like from start to finish, this was just a key performance for Anaheim heading into a road trip. What a way to cap it off, Eddie. Ducks get the much-needed points here as well against another team that's challenging and for a playoff spot with Taylor Hall. We have all been talking about the Hart Trophy. What a game, man. How do you feel about this one?
I mean, I wish I could plug in Will Ferrell, say we're going streaking. And it's a 3-game win streak now after coming off a 3-game losing streak. When we started the show, it was also a 3-game win streak. So I feel like we're a little bit of a streaky start so far. So hopefully this doesn't mean we're going to go and lose 3 in a row now, because that would be an unfortunate trend to start the post-game show, but it's great. I mean, this was, I guess, the toughest game of the last 3. You know, Vancouver and Detroit, you would assume they were probably must-wins, and the Ducks came out and got 2 big wins there, but this was the toughest opponent of the 3. New Jersey's fighting for a spot, pretty much in the same position the Ducks are, but in the Eastern Conference. And I think it was one of their best performances in a long time. I mean, they dominated play. Not much you could really do on the 2 New Jersey goals, especially the one where Maroon scored. That was a great pass by Vatanen. So I think all in all, really just a great effort and a good way to lead into this tough road trip coming up.
No, absolutely. And this game had some nastiness, too. We saw some nastiness with the Detroit game, as we talked about yesterday morning, with the fights that were involved there, big hits, Nick Ritchie going after Witowski a bit, and then you go into this game and you get some nastiness and nastiness in this game too. And it kind of all started with Pettersson with a nice hit at center ice, which we will get to here in a bit. But I love this type of hockey. The past 2 games are just what gets your blood pumping. You know the playoffs are close. You're out of that long stretch between February and March. You know, once the deadline passes, it's kind of like, all right, come on. Let's get to the playoffs. Let's get in gear. There's 9 games left on the dock here for the Ducks to gain as many points as possible. Heading into this one, though, they would face off against former Anaheim Ducks players Kyle Palmieri, Sammy Vatanen, Pat Maroon, Ben Lovejoy, and who am I missing there? Oh, there you go, Stefan Nason. So all 5 of those guys used to play in Anaheim. Sure, some of them were buddies. You saw them talking a bunch in this game, so that was interesting to see off and on. The Ducks would be without J.T. Brown, Antoine Vermette, and Corbinian Holzer. And, of course, Kevin Bieksa is still out after undergoing hand surgery. Gibby and Kincaid get the start in that. Were you not surprised by that? Kincaid getting the start, considering he just played yesterday in L.A.?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that Schneider was definitely going to get the start. I think in the last show we were talking about if Kincaid was to go against LA, that we would expect to see Corey Schneider. And I guess they're going with a hot hand. It didn't work out in this game, obviously, but the Devils as a whole looked tired in that third period. But yeah, I think it's an interesting decision. Like, I understand they're in a fight for the playoffs like the Ducks are, but I don't know how you leave Corey Schneider on the bench no matter how well Kincaid's playing, especially the fact that he played last night and he faced a pretty heavy workload. He stopped 37 shots in a shutout against LA, so it wasn't an easy night for him. So interesting to see him go. It's one of those things, if it works out, you're a genius. But the fact that they ended up losing, I think that's something they're going to reflect on.
Yeah, and then more would continue. In this game here, the Ducks dominate right out of the gate. There was a lot of interesting things that happened in here, but not without damage done to this Anaheim lineup. We'll get to that and more right after the start of the show. Let's get it going, Eddie.
Trying to get by Benning. Darnell Nurse left it in the corner, gets up center. Perry scores! Corey Perry!
Able to shake away from Solani. It's given away to Solani. Around in front. Score! Teemu Solani with the steal. And the fans want one. Score! Off the floor! Paul Kariya!
So right from the intro and into the start of what was a exciting first period early on too. I mean, it just was kind of that type of game right out of the gate.
No, absolutely. This one is just something we've been waiting to talk about. I was a little nervous, to be honest with you, going into this game, with just how well Taylor Hall's been dragging this team along. Not to say there's not other good players in this lineup for the Devils, but I mean, just with how well he's been playing and how they're in, just like you said, the same fight as Anaheim. I knew this was going to be a good test for the Ducks to wrap up the homestand and before they head out to the road trip. And they started off great. Getting into this first period, though, I thought that Vatanen scored. There was a play. I even wrote in the notes, what the hell? Because I swore I heard a whistle, but there was an offside that apparently the players didn't hear about. And he takes a shot and goes through Gibby. And Manson and Vatanen go careening into the boards. They both seem all right. Vatanen gets up and shakes it off a little bit. Fortunately, that was offside because that was a squeaker through Gibby. It remained 0-0. Cogs had a chance later, and Kincaid makes a big save with that blocker. He uses that a lot. Did you see that in this game? Kincaid seems to make those chances go away with his blocker. He kind of gets down on when he drops. He's able to move that blocker just above the pad. He's made a couple of those good saves tonight.
Yeah, I mean, he seems to be a blocker-heavy goalie. I watched a little bit of him in the game against LA, and you kind of saw the same things. But, I mean, going back quickly to that Vatanen chance early on, I was just setting up, getting ready for the game. I was like, all right, got my computer set up, ready to put the GIFs up on Twitter, got everything ready to go. And I watched Vatanen come in and just rip it, and I had the sound off at the time, so I didn't even hear the whistle. And I think I was among a lot of people who were like, okay, wow, this is the start we're going to have. And of all people, it's going to be Sami Vatanen who gets the first goal. I mean, of luckily it was offside, but I think, me and a lot of people, and even some of the Ducks players weren't sure if that was actually in or not to start the game.
No, fortunately that was not the case. And, I mentioned Josh Manson going careening into the boards. More on that later. I kind of felt like that maybe had something to do with what happened to him later in this game. But we'll get back to that in a moment. We got to talk about a Ducks goal because, of course, who would not be in the middle of all of what's going on here if it wasn't for Corey Perry, Ricard Raquel, and Ryan Getzlaf? Stretch past to Perry, cuts to the middle, gives it off to Raquel in front of the net. Raquel makes the shot. Kincaid makes the save. Puck gets cleared right up the middle to none other than Ryan Getzlaf with just a 4x6 staring at him right in the face. Basically an empty net goal. It's 1-0 Ducks.
There's a question for offside on this one, too. At least the broadcast was saying there was. Yeah,
I totally thought it was when I watched it.
Because Perry takes the puck. I guess he kind of skates backwards, and he receives the puck and skates backwards into the zone at the exact same time. And I think it was close. I'm surprised they didn't use their challenge to review it. Obviously, they got a better angle than I did. But either way, this line continues to click. Getzlaf he has a wide open net. He's not going to miss that. And it's great to see him get on the board again. And this line just to continue to have their great play as of late. We'll break it down a little bit later and how well Getzlaf and Raquel specifically have been playing as of late. But, if any line is going to get it on the board early, you have to expect it's going to be this one.
Kind of unfortunate the puck was cleared away by the defense there and not just a rebound, because it was an unassisted goal on Getzlaf's play there, his 11th of the season, which is very Getzlaf-esque. He's just hitting around the double-digit mark in the playoff stretch run. Typical Getzlaf, but we'll take it, of course, from the captain who's been lights out. This game, as we said in the pregame, was pretty physical, and it all started going really early, too. I mean, the big stuff happened with Pettersson after, but, I felt like from the get-go this had a playoff feel, no?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and you would expect that. I mean, not that these teams have any history, but like we had mentioned earlier on, the Ducks and the Devils right now are in almost an identical position where they're both just kind of hanging on to that final wildcard spot, really just hoping either to get in that way or to get into that final spot in their respective divisions. So, this is a tough game for both of them. These are huge points that, the Ducks win isn't going to affect the standings in the Metro Division, but, those are huge lost points for New Jersey.
No, absolutely. And you know who else was really noticeable in this game? It was the Henry, Kasha, and Richie line. Yeah. They stood out all over the ice. They dominated this entire game. I felt like every time they were on the ice, they had the puck creating chances. So that's also good news for Ducks fans. Even though they didn't get on the board tonight, it's still good to see that they're churning the wheels and getting moving and getting those chances. That's always good news. The Ducks also just crushing along, man. I noticed at one point, 5 minutes into the game, they had an 11-1 shot advantage, which is just not something we've seen lately from this Ducks team.
One of the better starts I think they've had in a long time. Definitely in the last 5 games. Maybe I'd have to go back and look at the previous 3-game winning streak to start our time here on the show. But this has been their best first period in a long time. And, it pays off because they do come out up 2-0. But up to that point, 11-1 shot advantage, they completely deserved it because New Jersey had nothing going up until that point other than the Vatanen chance 16 seconds in.
No, it's true. They just had that, the train moving along from the opening of the face-off. And this is something we haven't said in a long time. Getzlaf with a turnover. Yeah. Creates a chance. He was in on the Devils' blue line. Creates a chance there. Bose tries to pinch to save it. Misses. And then it's a 2-on-1 for none other than Taylor Hall and Zajac. And Hall threads the needle to Zajac. And Gibby had to make, I wouldn't say an uncontrolled save. He just didn't look as positional as he has been. But he still gets just enough of it looks like the top of the glove of the pad. And it goes up and over, deflected over the top of the crossbar. And he gets the save there. Everyone exhales with a sigh of relief as we did not want to let this team get in on the Ducks after the Ducks have been rolling.
Yeah, I think the first question we have to ask was it a drop pass? Was it a drop pass turnover by Ryan Getzlaf? Because I feel like, that's hopefully in the past. I mean, obviously it wasn't in this one, but those are always the questions. When Getzlaf turns it over, doesn't do it often, and I feel like at least 50% of the time, it's got to be a drop pass. I mean, when do you see him turn over the puck on a regular occasion?
All that ever stands out of my mind was the drop pass in overtime against the Arizona Coyotes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's the one. That's the one that stands out in everybody's mind. But, I mean, Gibby doing what he does, right? I mean, this was a huge save. Gets just a piece of it on his, I think it was his glove he got a piece of it on. But, I mean, again, we bringing up the Vezina conversation, the discussion with John Gibson and how well he's played of late. Played great in this game. And it just continues to keep rolling.
And that's what they had to get from him, right? I mean, they needed a key save early, up 1-0. And, that would pay dividends here as Manson would get the puck. We have another Ducks goal coming up here. Point shot going well wide of the net. Perfect deflection by none other than Jakob Silfverberg. Goes 5-hole on Kincaid, and now it's 2-0 Anaheim.
Yeah, and again, this you get Silfverberg getting on the board again. We talked about how important it is for him to get going, and specifically that line with Kessler and Cogliano. They've started to turn things around, and he gets the deflection off that Manson goal, and there's a couple deflections in this one where the Ducks are just getting pucks to the net and hoping they hit people. And, I mean, at this point, everything was going right for Anaheim, and hopefully... We say this every time Silfverberg scores, I feel like, but hopefully this is the turnaround for him. That's his 16th of the season. It would be really, really nice to see him hit 20 and heat up going into the playoffs, but he's got a long way to go.
No, it's true. His shooting percentage is down right now as well, but he's on pace for almost probably around 20 goals. He should be right there. So it's not far-fetched from where he was. It just feels like he's not getting the opportunities, or he's not converting on as many he's had. I mean, it's one or the other. It's kind of a night in and night out basis, right? Sometimes you see him make a shot, and then like the one against the game in Detroit several weeks ago where he went forehand to backhand, and he should have just tried to shoot it. I mean, he just was like holding the stick too tight for a bit, I guess. But I mean, like you said, hopefully this is the one that gets his goal scoring. As Tammy would say, pump it out of the ketchup bottle, right? You hit the ketchup and it starts coming out, and this is when the Ducks are going to need it. So Ducks would lead 2-0 here. Physicality continues. Lovejoy, which I've never seen him as a hitter when he was in Anaheim either. I never felt like he was a guy that was going to crush anybody. Crushes Derek Grant behind the net. Easily could have been interference, but no call. And then the Ducks would go ahead and take a penalty. Kasha would take the call there. Nothing really going, though, for either one. I mean, the Ducks have been really dominant on the penalty kill. I mean, right? I mean, there was... I wish I would have wrote down the stat that Hayward and Allers were talking about. They were saying it was like several games they'd gone without giving up a power play goal. I wish they would go up to 16-3 in the shot advantage, though, Eddie, with 3:58 to go in the first period. I feel like this was a great period for the Ducks, and I don't know if you could ask much more for that. They would cause some problems for themselves, though, at the end of it, staying in the penalty box that would cause them to have a 5-on-3 going into the second. But overall, a 2-0 lead and a 17-6 shot advantage, and I'd gladly take that against this New Jersey Devils team.
Yeah, I think anybody would. And I think they did what you would want against the team who played the other night. They came out strong early on. They kept the pressure up. They controlled shot attempts throughout the entire first period. New Jersey had almost no chances. I think their only chance really was the Zajac and Hall 2-on-1 that Gibby had to make a good save on. Other than that, they just didn't get anything going, and that's obviously